G'day, I'm JibSmart and this is the JoyShockMapper 1.4 update. Here we have Bluetooth support for the DualShock 4 along with some much more advanced ways to configure your controls. For those looking to download it, there's a link in the description. That little number usually means some bugs have been fixed, so make sure you get the latest version. A lot of you will be glad to learn that JoyShockMapper should now detect DualShock 4 controllers connected by Bluetooth. A lot of people have been asking for that and it's mostly working well, but if you encounter any issues, let me know. But for those looking for more advanced ways to customize their controls, 1.4 adds some really cool new features. You can now set up mappings for simultaneous presses and chorded presses, and there's also the option to invert gyro input on the fly. Let's look at these features in a little more detail. Pack more mappings into fewer buttons with simultaneous presses. In Apex Legends, I have ZR mapped to ping and ZL mapped to my tactical ability. ZL plus ZR is mapped to my ultimate ability. Since players will rarely press two buttons at exactly the same time, any input that also has a simultaneous mapping, like ZL and ZR in this case, will have a small 50 millisecond delay on their regular mappings, so that JoyShockMapper can check if you're actually doing a simultaneous press instead of a regular press. For that reason, you'll not want simultaneous mappings on the same buttons as something like shooting, which you'll want to be as responsive as possible. Now, chorded presses work a bit differently. With a chorded press, you indicate that by pressing one button, you're changing the behavior of one or more other buttons. There is no delay added here. As soon and as long as this first button is pressed, these other mappings are active. So in Fortnite, I don't want to cycle through weapons or build tools. Instead, I have the left trigger change the mappings of the face buttons to give me access to all the build tools. I also have the right trigger change the mappings of the face buttons to give me access to all the weapons. When pressing the left trigger, I have it instantly go to wall building, but while it's pressed, the face buttons give me the remaining build tools. In a similar way, the right trigger gives me the first weapon slot right away, and I can pick any other weapon instead by pressing one of the face buttons while the right trigger is still pressed. There's no harm in starting to pull out your first weapon before changing to a different one, so this allows me to access everything I need super quickly. It's still going to take practice though, and I haven't spent a lot of time with Fortnite. Shooting is working just fine for me if I can keep my distance, but I crack under the pressure when building and shooting mix. Let's look at another example, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Remember that the gyro is a mouse, and the lack of a mouse is the biggest obstacle to games like these being accessible on consoles. But as you get into games like these, you'll increasingly rely on keyboard shortcuts to do things quickly, and it's hard to fit all of the important ones on one controller. When playing Age, I've been experimenting with having the right stick move the camera around, and the left stick activate different sets of hotkeys. With the left stick pressed up, the face buttons and R3 map to the top row of hotkeys. I can leave the left stick in a neutral position to activate the middle row of hotkeys, and pull it down to activate the bottom row. With some practice, I've started committing to memory quick combos for common shortcuts like building houses or building farms. Finally, let's look at inverting the gyro. This feature is inspired by some of JB's videos, which I'll link to in the description. When a button is pressed, you can invert the gyro input. This means that as you make big turns and reach the limit of what's comfortable for you, you can invert the gyro input and continue that big turn while returning your controller to a comfortable position. It does take some getting used to. Here I'm using it to play devil daggers with one Joy-Con. Some of the time I feel really good as the appropriate movement just comes naturally, but at other times I still find myself confused by the inverted aiming. It's also not obvious to me whether it's better to just invert the x-axis or to invert both axes. Just inverting the x-axis is easier to learn, it seems, but sooner or later you'll get out of your comfortable range vertically too, and being able to invert the y-axis is important for that. Nicholas tells me he found some success with having the gyro deactivate on tap. This will last for half a second, giving you time to recenter. While having a hold of the same button, invert the x-axis so you can continue tracking circling enemies. If you experiment with these options, let me know how you go in the comments below. Like with version 1.3, Nicholas has again helped out by implementing a lot of the new features in this update. JoyShockMapper is much better for his involvement, and I'm hugely grateful. Check out the changelog to see a more complete list of what's new and get a better idea of who is most responsible for what. There are a bunch more new features you'll find there as well, besides the ones mentioned in this video. Thanks for watching. There's much more to come on this channel. Keep an eye out for a deeper look at what makes gyro controls good or bad, as well as some exploring of different ways to play a variety of games. Stick around and let's change how games are played.